Celebrating 49 years on the air, award-winning Farmweek is a production of Mississippi State University Extension.
Today on Farm Week, new rules in Mississippi for labeling seafood. Plus, Ag Secretary Brooke Rollins makes a major policy announcement pushing for an all-American workforce. In Southern Gardening, a spectacular display garden in Poplarville. You might want to wear sunglasses for this one. And in our bookend feature, veterinarian Kim Klunk fighting an uphill battle. Farm Week starts right now.
Hello everyone, I'm Zach Ashmore.
And I'm Mike Russell. We are happy to have you here with us on Farm Week. The state of Mississippi recently took a big step toward protecting its seafood industry. A brand new law now makes it mandatory to show clearly on the packaging of any seafood sold in the state, whether it's domestic or imported. The new law took effect July 1st and includes all seafood, including shrimp and crawfish, whether in grocery stores, seafood markets, restaurants, or food trucks. All that product must be clearly labeled as domestic or imported if it's harvested or processed outside the U.S. Mississippi Ag Commissioner Andy Gibson issued a statement right after the law became law. In that statement, Gibson said, quote, "For over a decade, our agency has enforced the marketing law for U.S. farm-raised catfish. So we're pleased to now broaden our efforts to protect Mississippi consumers by including seafood and crawfish within our inspection protocol. I encourage the public to always look for and purchase domestic U.S. seafood at your grocery store and local restaurants." The new law, according to Gibson, is intended to strengthen consumer confidence and to support seafood producers and fishermen along the Mississippi Gulf Coast.
Two more policy announcements by USDA Secretary Brooke Rollins recently, both of them major but neither surprising, given the current political environment. All part of her new National Farm Security Action Plan. Peter Tubbs has more.
Secretary of Agriculture Brooke Rollins promised to find a balance between deporting undocumented farm workers while not disrupting the agricultural supply chains they support.
Ultimately, the answer on this is automation, also some reform within the current governing structure. And then also, when you think about, there are 34 million able-bodied adults in our Medicaid program. There are plenty of workers in America, but we just have to make sure we're not compromising today. So no amnesty under any circumstances. Mass deportations continue, but in a strategic and intentional way as we move our workforce toward more automation and toward a 100% American workforce.
The USDA also announced the launch of the National Farm Security Action Plan to improve the security of the country's food system. One point of emphasis in the plan is to address concerns about foreign ownership of farmland in the United States. The USDA counts 876 million acres of agricultural land in the 50 U.S. states. USDA data shows over 45 million acres of American farmland as being owned by foreign investors. Investors in the European Union own over 20 million acres, while Canadians own 15 million acres. Currently, 26 U.S. states have laws that either restrict or ban foreign ownership of farmland.
As you heard, the EU and Canada own 78% of the farmland in the U.S. owned by foreign investors. China, less than 1%. But the concern is that some of that land is near U.S. military bases.
This week, an encore episode from Season 2 of On the Farm, our Emmy-winning series on stress in agriculture. In this episode, we meet veterinarian Kim Klunk, an MSU grad. Her love of animals and loyalty to family propelled her into this kind of work. But in a story that unfortunately isn't unusual for veterinarians, the pressure began to mount.
I grew up on a farm with cows, horses, goats. My family milked the goats growing up. I grew up showing cattle. With my mom being a vet, it's something I've always been around from the time I was really little. I went with her on emergency calls to the clinic late at night. Saw a lot of different things that most kids don't see growing up. My first year of vet school, my little brother passed away in a car accident. A lot of the reason I wanted to do large animal work kind of goes back to my family, and my little brother, he was really involved in large animal stuff. That kind of played a big part of it. I feel like it kind of solidified that I knew I wanted to come back and give back to the community that raised me, and also be there for my parents. Kind of starting out the day, usually get here a little before 8. See what the appointment schedule looks like for the day, kind of the layout of what's going on. Every day is different. You never know what you're going to get into or what's going to come up.
Small animal clinics can see as many as 40 patients a day, and that makes for a long day for them. Large animal vets are actually driving out to farms, checking on the health of a herd, doing immunizations of that herd, or following up on a wide variety of animals on a farm.
How old do you have on her papers? Being kind of a new large animal vet in the area, and being a new vet in general, there is anxiety that comes with it. A lot of it is having to gain experience to know, what to do, what things look like, and how to treat them accordingly. I'll just make this up.
The last health paper.
They're doing a wide variety of services all in one day, and they don't always have access to the fancy equipment that they might have access to in a small animal clinic.
Especially being a large animal vet in a rural area, we can't have all the bells and whistles and all the really cool equipment they have out there, just from a financial standpoint. You have to improvise with, different ways of being able to evaluate what's going on. We have to pay the bills to keep the lights on, to pay support staff, to pay ourselves, and also the cost of the medications that go into it. Our little spots look like they've healed up really nice. There's definitely a ripple effect in that, if we aren't able to stay open and provide, it affects the farmers and the people we're trying to work for too. A lot of times cattle operations, there are sicknesses and diseases and stuff that can be preventable, and that's where, a veterinarian's role comes into it, to where they don't lose all of that cost that goes into it, the hard work and time and effort they put into it. And especially in a small rural area where finances are tight.
If something were to influence the health of the herd, now not only are we talking about the health of the animals, but we're talking about the financial health of those families.
You can't spend endless amounts of money treating them and doing what you can for them. So having to kind of work within those means it can be difficult, outweighing their value versus the work and money you put into them.
The less hair there is.
So time, money, and resources being what they are, answers don't come easy, and the pressure multiplies. We'll have the conclusion of Kim's story coming up a little later in the show.
This week in Southern Gardening, we're in South Mississippi. There, Eddie Smith teams up with some very talented master gardeners to showcase a brilliant display of garden. You might just need these. Here's Eddie.
Today on Southern Gardening, we are visiting the MSU South Mississippi Branch Experiment Station in Poplarville, Mississippi, where the Pearl River County Master Gardeners have created a stunning display garden. Let's take a closer look at some of the plants growing in this space. One eye-catching plant is Flamo Orange Celosia, which produces dense, upright plumes in a brilliant, fiery orange hue that lights up the garden. These feathery flower spikes rise above lush green foliage, adding striking vertical interest. Nearby, Burning Embers Celosia draws attention with its bold, coppery bronze to deep burgundy foliage that perfectly contrasts the bright, flame-like blooms, creating a dramatic and colorful display. Mango Tango Marigold brings a spicy burst of color with its frilly double blooms in a vibrant mix of gold yellow and deep orange red. Many of the petals are splashed or edged with contrasting tones, giving the flowers a festive bicolor look that really pops. Verbena Vanity adds soft elegance with clusters of vivid lavender purple flowers atop slender, branching stems. A more compact take on the classic tall verbena, this variety keeps its signature airy grace while offering a more manageable size, perfect for beds and borders. One of my personal favorites is the Profusion Red-Yellow Bicolor Zinnia, a low-maintenance, long-blooming beauty. Its daisy-like flowers blend rich red centers with bright golden yellow petals, gradually shifting to soft orange as they age. The multi-toned effect adds constant interest and vibrant charm to any sunny space. Consider adding any of these plants to your garden. I'm Eddie Smith, and I look forward to seeing you next time on Southern Gardening.
We'll take a break right here, but don't go away. Coming up, we conclude our ag stress story on the farm with the story of large animal vet Kim Klunk. She expected a certain amount of stress when she started practicing a few years ago, but long hours, deadlines, and money pressure take a big toll on her mental health. How do you cope, especially when rural areas don't have enough mental health resources? And that's just the tip of the iceberg. On the Farm continues, coming up on Farm Week. Don't go away.
I believe in people and their hopes, their aspirations and their faith, and their right to make their own plans and arrive at their own decisions, and their ability and power to enlarge their lives and plan for the happiness of those they love. I believe that education, of which extension work is an essential part, is basic in stimulating individual initiative, self-determination, and leadership, that these are the keys to democracy, and that people, when given facts they understand, will act not only in their self-interest, but also in the interest of society. Because I believe these things, I am an extension professional.
I believe in people and their hopes, their aspirations, and their faith. I believe in intellectual freedom to search for and present the truth without bias and with courteous tolerance toward the views of others. I believe that education is a lifelong process, and the greatest university is the home. That my success as a teacher is proportional to those qualities of mind and spirit that give me welcome entrance to the homes of the families I serve. Because I believe these things, I am an extension professional.
Time for the market report, a bit of a focus on livestock this week.
That's right, Mike, and this month's WASDE report also dropped, and we'll get into it. But first, the numbers. What were the week's biggest gains and losses? And then, this month's WASDE report, what did it have to say? And finally, program updates from the Big Beautiful Bill. How do they affect Mississippi livestock producers? So, markets closed on the downswing, livestock and row crops affected. Let's take a look. The week's biggest gain, lumber up $57. That's up more than 9% from the previous week. The week's biggest loss, corn, down 24.25 cents, nearly a 6% decrease from the previous week. So, this month's WASDE report dropped in, doesn't seem to move the markets much, or at least it didn't. However, here's Bella Bingham with all the details.
U.S. wheat supplies adjusted up due to higher projected yields by 1 bushel per acre. Both winter and spring wheat production lowered while exports raised. Season average farm price unchanged at $5.40 per bushel. Global wheat supplies projected down slightly due to lower beginning stocks in Canada, Ukraine, and Iran. Consumption raised slightly as well, mostly due to feed and residual use. Trade expected to be lower by a little over 1 million tons. U.S. corn beginning stocks cut 25 million bushels due to increased exports. Feed and residual use down 75 million bushels. Production down as well due to less acreage along with total use and ending stocks. Season average farm price $4.20 per bushel. Global corn production up, most due to Brazil and the Philippines. Export raised for the U.S. and Canada, lowered for Turkey. Ending stocks adjusted down over 3 million tons. U.S. rice supplies down about 8 million hundredweight due to less production. Heavy rain and flooding in the Delta region, particularly northern Arkansas, disrupted planting. As a result, both exports and use projected down. Season average farm price $14 per hundredweight. Global rice supplies unchanged, while consumption and residual use raised by about 500,000 tons. Trade also up slightly. U.S. soybean production reduced due to lesser acreage, but unchanged projected yields. Crush raised 50 million bushels due to higher biofuel demand. Exports down due to higher domestic demand. Season average farm price $10.10 per bushel. Global soybean beginning stocks raised along with production, mostly due to Ukraine. Crush also raised along with soy meal trade, while bean exports down. Ending stocks raised by nearly 1 million tons. U.S. pork production raised along with broilers due to higher weights. Beef production down due to slow slaughter and lower weights. Turkey production down as well, along with egg production, both based on recent hatchery data. Milk production projected up due to more cows and milk per cow. Exports also up mostly on cheese and dried skim milk products. Cheese prices lowered while butter, non-fat dry milk, and whey prices increased. All milk price forecast $22 per hundredweight. U.S. cotton acreage up by over 10 million and harvested area also up by 6%. As a result, production forecast 600,000 bales higher. Season average farm price 62 cents per pound. Global cotton production raised nearly 1.5 million bales, along with consumption by 365,000 bales. Exports lowered along with beginning stocks, however, ending stocks projected up 520,000 bales.
With the recent signing of the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, or OBBA, came some changes to government programs, a few directly affecting livestock producers. Dr. Josh Maples gives us an overview of how they could benefit Mississippians.
So the changes to the Livestock Forage Disaster Program, I think, are probably some of the most noticeable ones that especially the cattle producers in Mississippi are going to see. A lot of Mississippi producers enrolling already, and the changes that were made in the Big Beautiful Bill Act are going to lead to it, triggering sooner, and whenever it does trigger, in some cases, the payments are going to be higher. So the big change in the estate tax exemption is one, it makes it permanent. Without this exemption, it could trigger some really high taxes, and farmers, cattle producers, whoever, whatever we're talking about, could have to sell land or livestock or equipment just to pay the tax bill whenever the farm is moving from one generation to the next. So these are pretty high exemption levels, so anything under these levels will, can pass down without any federal or state taxes. So the poultry insurance program, pilot program, is completely new, and it's even newer than new because there is no actual program yet. And the idea is to provide some sort of insurance product to help protect poultry growers, so the contract growers we have in Mississippi, from spikes in things like energy cost. So weather-related utility charges, those can be unexpected increases throughout the year depending on what's going on with weather. So this program would ideally provide some sort of protection against those spikes. And so this is going to be interesting to see how this gets developed and gets implemented.
And that's it for a deeper look into the markets. Mike?
Thanks, Zach. Now for the conclusion of our On the Farm story. Kim Klunk is a large animal veterinarian facing pressure every day to care for her customers' animals in a demanding and widening rural practice. One of the biggest challenges is that the folks she's serving are more than just customers.
Not only are they your customers, but they're your friends and your family members, and it becomes quite entwined into everyday life for all of you. And that in and of itself can have some pretty big emotional components to it.
It can be stressful at times when you know that you're the only person available or one of the only people available in the area. You want to be available all the time, but we have lives too.
It's not uncommon for them to call up instead of saying, "Hi, Dr. So-and-so." It's like, "Hi, sis. My dog just threw up everywhere. What do I do?" And it doesn't matter that you're in the middle of a church service.
That can be stressful to be able to mediate the work-life balance. And when it's one person working for the whole area, it's difficult to be able to see all the emergencies and see, get people in and be able to take care of their animals whenever they need help. Come home at night sometimes and I am exhausted from the day, long hours and, if it's difficult things going on. There is a degree of exhaustion that goes on there. On the long days where a lot that went on, a lot that went wrong. You have to deal with processing if you did the right thing. And you're driving home at the end of the day and you're like, is this really what I'm supposed to be doing? It's hard and you have to kind of learn how to manage that mentally and kind of put it in a place where it doesn't affect you every day. And certainly when you're exhausted, how to keep pushing through and providing the best care you possibly can, even during those times of exhaustion where it feels like you just can't go on anymore.
Just from a mental health perspective, rural areas don't have enough mental health resources that understand the needs of veterinarians. When we start talking about large animal veterinarians, they have completely different needs many times than some of our small animal vets. 1 in 6 veterinarians has considered suicide. 1 in 3 have clinically significant anxiety, depression, and/or depression. And despite knowing the need, less than 1/3 will actually seek help. As large animal vets, they have access to lethal means. And it is on their vehicles and on their trucks, because when they go out to a farm, they need to be prepared to handle whatever comes their way that day. So they do have access. And it's quick and efficient access, and it is deadly.
you go to bed and get back up again the next day and keep trying and try again. You kind of have to reel things back in and go back to the core reasons of why you're doing this and what you're doing it for. And those things are kind of what carry you through. Working with my mom, being back home, it's a really cool thing. So at the end of the day, you kind of dig deeper and find those reasons and evaluate, why you do what you do and for the love of animals and keep going on.
Very important. If you or someone you know is in emotional crisis, call or text 988 anytime for confidential, free crisis support. Well, next week, another encore from our series On the Farm. We head to Doddsville, Mississippi. There we meet Ed and Ben Pentecost, two brothers who have farmed catfish for 40 years.
But now it's getting harder to keep up with the high cost of running their 600-acre fish farm.
On the Farm, another encore special next time on Farm Week.
Remember, if you missed a story, look for past episodes of Farm Week on our website at farmweek.tv.
And don't forget to follow us on Facebook and YouTube. We will see you next week. Thanks for watching.